Welcome back everybody to the Hardcore series, and make sure you've turned that subscribe button grey before we start. Otherwise, what we're doing in today's episode it just won't work. But anyway, so between episodes I have caved at this tree farm for a bit, which still doesn't have a decorated interior, but I used it until all the bone meal is gone, so we've got a reasonable supply of logs now. But the bone meal is gone, and I don't really want to have to use the skeleton spawner which is down there, as that is just way too slow and manual. So today we're going to be making a moss farm. Let's get right into it. Also, by the way, I've decided to use Whip's texture pack for these new textures, as they're very subtle, but they do look quite nice. They're slightly bushy leaves and very nice wheat. Just makes field look a lot nicer. But then it doesn't really change much else. So I think I'm going to stick with this unless anyone has any complaints. We now have a load of materials to gather. Let's start with quite a few blocks. Let's find a good material to use. For the blocks, I'm thinking that we can use some tubs. Let's put all of the materials in this chest for now. But glass is easy enough to get from this villager here, so I've now got more than enough. We now need a couple of walls, and I'm just going to use some mossy cobblestone for this, and then also some stairs, which I just use andesite for. Now we need a couple of pistons. I need a tiny bit of ice now, so let's just come over near spawn and gather a bit from this frozen lake. And I've returned with 22 packed ice. We also need a couple of hoppers, and also a load of observers. We also need 10 droppers. We also need 6 comparators and 8 repeaters. As one of the final few materials, we need to craft a load of dispensers, which will involve a lot of doing this quite often. So I'll be back when I've completed all of these posts. And there we go, 5 dispensers. I've now picked out a spot, and I decided to make a whole new building for it, just because I wasn't exactly sure how I'd fit it in there. And also I kind of want to fill this area out a bit more. So let's get started building this. The build is now done, and to complete it we need this armor stand, and we just need to place it over here. Now I already prepared some Frostwalker 2 boots using the villagers, so now the farm should be done. And to test the redstone at least, we can just flick that lever and it should now all be working. And it's going to be very loud, so hopefully it's not too loud for you. But I think it's working. As you can see, all the water drains and it's redispensed. And this is just an unload detector, which shuts off the farm if it's unloaded. To start it off, I think we need to quickly put a little bit of bone meal in that dispenser there, and then quickly come up here and flick this lever, and hopefully the farm works now. Now that should be bone mealing it. Maybe I put in the wrong dispenser, let's quickly have a look. And it is now working. We're getting moss through, and we're also getting moss down here, as you can see. And the reason why it wasn't working before is because I forgot this over here. But now that it works, it's working pretty well. Now you can see we're already getting stuff out of output, but I haven't linked any storage up yet, so that's what we've got to do next. I now want to add in the chest system, so I think I'm going to go up maybe 3 rows of chests, maybe 4. Let's have a look at 4 actually. Yeah, I think 4 rows of chests is good, so we need 1 for the bone meal, and then we can use the rest of this stack of chests I made for the other items. I think this is a decent sized storage. We've got plenty of space. In this first row, I'm going to put an item filter so only bone meal can go in. We of course also need a couple of hoppers for this. And we can now start just placing these all along the back of these chests. I've now added a little water stream going around here, so it starts here, then I've got a trapdoor to stack the items more. And then we've got first this filter here. I do still need to add the filter on for bone meal, and it drops down for all the rest. These won't have filters, they'll just be random items. Then at the end we can just have a little fire for all the items go into and get burnt so there's no extra light. And of course we also need to cover up this bubble column so items don't shoot out the top. We can now test if this sorting system works, so let's turn it on quickly there. And now we should see items coming out pretty soon. As soon as those hoppers get filled, or when there's large enough batches. And first we'll get some bone meal. And I did forget to set the filter, so I'll go into the wrong one. Let's quickly set the filter here. There we go. So that filter is now set, so any bone meal that comes through will get picked up on that one. Then any moss or moss items should go through and go into the unsorted. So let's watch to see if this works. Here comes some seeds, and the seeds should go into a different chest. Hopefully this one. There we go. Only bone meal and random junk in here. After only running it for a couple of seconds, like just a minute or so, we've already got quite a bit of bone meal and also a load of moss blocks. For the deco of this farm, I think I'm going to start by pushing this bit back a bit. So let's go get our shovel. And here we go, now we can remove a bit of this terrain. And that's all really that I need to remove. Now it's time to put out the shape. So this is the edge here. So I want to do a little corner here, I think. And then we can bring it out maybe along a diagonal here. Like this maybe. And then continue bringing it out to roughly here. And then we can bring it in again. I've now got a general shape in, and this is where the door's going to go. Now we need to start building this up, so I think I'm going to just go up a couple of blocks of moss every now and again. And not all the blocks will be going up. And I have just removed this tree, so we have to wait for the leaves to despawn. I'm just going to bring the moss up slightly, as you want it to slowly change from moss to mossy cobblestone to tough. But then we also want to add some depth. I've now brought up all of the sides, and now we just need to come in with some mossy cobblestone, kind of like this, to add a bit of depth to it. And now that that's done, we can finally come in with a final layer of tuff. However, this will only go up to this level, as then I want to bring in the walls. start off on the walls, I'm going to have two layers. I'm going to have this higher layer where the ground kind of steps up a bit and where the moss farm is. And I'm going to have this lower layer where the storage is. And the lower layer is going to have walls similar to the creep farm over there, using dripstone bow to separate it from this base of stone. So let's go around tracing the shape. And there we go, I've now got the general shape of this second layer, and I've also fallen down. However, for this second section up here, I have a slightly different block palette I'd like to try and use. So let's quickly throw that back in there, then we can go and get the blocks for the next block palette. But for some of these blocks in our palette, we need to get a bit of sand, as I'm going to be using concrete powder. So let's gather a little bit of it here. That should be enough sand gathered. We can now mix this with some gravel I gathered earlier to make a load of white concrete powder. And the final block in this block palette is just some diorite, which we can get from this big clump in the cave. We now have all of the resources for the second part of the build, so we can now start with this. And here are all the materials laid out here quickly for you. So we're going to use some unstripped birch logs actually, some white concrete powder, polished diorite and normal diorite. And hopefully this looks good, and I think it will look pretty nice. This is what we have so far, and I think it's looking pretty good. I'm liking this block palette, and I think it's going to look even better when we have this other side on too. This is what I've got so far, so let's quickly drop down. And yeah, so that's what we've got so far. And I've also started on this side too, and I think it's looking pretty good at the moment. All the walls are now in and all nice and textured, and I think it's looking very nice. So we've now got that in, we've still got this big section down here to do, so let's start on this bit. I do need some more mud though for this farm, so let's take our donkey and get out of here quickly. And let's go travelling, as with the donkey we can have all these extra spaces. And also, while we're going, if you want to, go down to the comments and give me a name for this donkey. I'll take the best one when we make the next episode. I'm now back home with my donkey, so let's just jump over here. And we've got plenty of mud, so let's go and drop this off at our house. I've started by adding a couple of these sort of supports and borders around here. Now we can come in and add in a bit of this mud, and also I decided to use some andesite too. I think that could look pretty nice. Let's start filling in all of the gaps. And now in the corners I want to add in a little tower, except we won't be using normal oak. We'll be using the strip version instead. And there we go. It's now finished, and at the moment it is of course very plain. But we will be fixing that a bit later on when we come to detailing the whole thing. So for now that is good enough. Let's quickly put our totem in the offhand again too. But there we go, we've got a nice tall tower, a shorter building and a taller building. So now we need to go in and detail all this. Starting with this building here, I want to add in some windows. For the windows, I think I'm just going to go for something like this. I think that looks pretty good. With a campfire on top, then some fence gates, and then some scaffolding in there. And then we can also do some other ones around here as well. Let's just go around now adding in all of these little windows here. All of the windows for this part of the castle are now in, and I think they look pretty nice with this scaffolding. I don't normally use it that much, so it's nice to use it for a change rather than glass paint. For these windows on this part of the build, I think I'm going to use some fence gates. But I'm also going to put some glass behind them, just so that it's not fully unprotected. There we go, some glass behind. Finally, to finish it off, I'm going to come in every now and again and add in a little bush under the windows. Just add a bit of greenery to it. And there we go. I've added quite a few windows, even some on this tower, which isn't quite finished yet. And of course, I've added a load of really nice looking windows around here. So I'll give you a quick look at all of them. And they're all pretty nice. I try and make them slightly unique. This is probably my favourite one out of all of them. I just like how detailed it is and how it fits in space. Got some small ones around here, and then I had to do a weird corner one right there. Then around here we're going back to some more normal ones. And these are all pretty similar, except for this one. Don't know why I decided to add that fence there. I think I'm just going to add a trapdoor there quickly. And there we go, that's basically all the windows now in. But we now need to think about the roof. I now need some deep slate for the roof, so I'm off to the caves with my TNT. I'll show you why a little bit later. And while we're heading down, make sure you've clicked the subscribe button and turned it grey like all this stone. Otherwise the build won't work and the farm will break. Yeah, that's definitely what's going to happen if you don't subscribe. The main reason why I got this TNT is so that I can just mine down 2, I think it was, place that down there, and if we use a flint and steel it should clean out a nice hole. Let's have a look if this works. There we go. We get plenty of TNT for this, or not TNT, we get plenty of deep slate. So I'm going to use this for a little while to see how much we can get. And now I've got this little roof trim with the deep slate, so I want to bring in the moss. I'm just going to add it in around it, going up every 2 blocks. So do something like that to start with, and then we can just slowly bring it upwards. I've now filled it all in with moss, and I want to sprinkle in a tiny bit of mossy cobblestone in here. So every now and again I'm just going to put a little bit in here, and then I think I'll add a little bit of detail to the roof. With 1 day left to day 400 on this hardcore world, which is actually quite good to reach that. And we are now finished with the outside, and I've gone around adding a load of leaves. And I think it looks really nice. This is probably my favourite build in the world now. And definitely the best looking, I'd say. But anyway, let's quickly head in, and I've added this little door. And this is what we're greeted with. But this isn't the nicest sight to look at. So we have 1 Minecraft day to completely transform that. So let's do this thing with a quick 12. And there we go. We have a nice interior. Not my favourite interior, but I think it works. And we're not quite at day 400 yet, so let's see if we can sleep. No, so it's almost day 400. And there. It's now day 400 in our hardcore world, which means that it took us 50 days to complete this, which is actually quite a lot for such a small build. But I'm quite impressed with it. We're getting plenty of bone meal and loads of moss, more than we'll ever need. This bone meal we can all use to go into our farm here, our tree farm. And that's the main reason why we built that bone meal farm in the first place. To complete this build, we need to just add in a little pathway going along. So let's just make a simple one going to the main pathway of our village. And there, still day 400, and we've got a nice path, so we've not finished quite yet. There we go, just going to replace that block. And there we go, we have a nice path connecting all the way up into the main path for this village. And let's quickly go down it and have a look at this build, but let's do it with a shaded walkthrough. right after I sleep, of course, so